Welcome to the Asia Society, wherever you are in the world. Selamat ketemu lagi, kalau di Indonesia. We're delighted to be having this program today as part of Culture Matters, one of our Culture as Diplomacy, Culture as Connection programming here at the Asia Society. Today's program is focused on Bali in the time of COVID-19. And of course, Bali is so well known throughout the world, both for its culture and sometimes in a slightly less enticing way, as if it was a tourist island. Bali is not a tourist island, although many tourists have gone. But what is great today is that we have an opportunity to really understand not only the situation in Bali short term in terms of COVID, but long term in terms of the environment. And we have two extraordinary individuals, both of whom are members of the Asia Society's Asia 21 Young Fellows, Young Leaders, here to talk about their work in Bali. So I'm really thrilled to have them, and I want to thank them for their generosity, because of course in Bali it's 9 at night. Here in New York it's 9 a.m. As you may know, Bali is near and dear to my heart personally, because I've been involved with Balinese culture for the last, well, we won't say how many years, but for a long time. It is a part of the modern world, and so we're really interested to see, and I think also to understand what we globally can learn from the local solutions that have been a part of what these two and their cohort of people, because there are many people working together. And if there's anything that exemplifies Bali, it's that idea of gotong royong and of working together and community. It's very important. And it's not that there aren't individuals, but it's that people see society as a real priority. So we'll have a chance to explore that in just a moment. I wanted to start with a little bit of music, and it's not the music you usually think about when you think Bali. Let's hear Robbie.
Busur hujan di cakrawala, kau rayu hatiku menuju ke sana. Busur hujan di cakrawala, mahakarya jambatan ke gerbang surga. Ku kembangkan layarku, harungi samudra ibuku, kan ku hunjam sauhku ke dalam rahimmu.
So Robbie Robbie Nakula is an Indonesian rock musician, activist, writer, farmer. Robbie is the director of akarumput.com, a social environmental media consultant and a certified permaculture designer who teaches organic farming in Bali, as well as a vocalist for Navakula, one of the foremost rock bands in Indonesia, and really a global. And Ewa is the co-founder of Kopernik, with a vision to find effective ways to reduce poverty. Before Kopernik, Ewa spent a decade working for the United Nations and the World Bank in Timor-Leste, Indonesia, Sierra Leone, Thailand, and the US. And with a focus on access to justice and the empowerment of environmental and vulnerable groups. And again, both of them have been part of the Asia 21 fellows, and maybe at the very end we'll have a chance to talk about what it means to be part of a larger network of young leaders around the world. But let me start. How did you two meet?
I guess you could say that I was a groupie to begin with. I first came across Robbie and Avicula as a fan. I first saw Robbie play and then saw his band play and was really moved by the music because it was really great music, but also because I was really moved by the social and environmental messages of the music. So so first as a fan, and then we became friends, and then it turned out that there were a lot of mutual interests, and we started collaborating on a project in East Nusa Tenggara it was part of our women's economic empowerment program, and from there the collaborations really grew, and I think we'll have an opportunity to talk about some of those collaborations today.
That's great. Robbie, you know, when in my world, when I talk about heavy metal, I'm thinking of a gamelan, because I've been on gamelan for the last 40 years. But you take heavy metal very seriously and in a very different direction. How did you come to play rock?
Yeah, actually, gamelan literally made from heavy metal.
That's what I.
I just love rock music. You know, my teenage, I growing up with this kind of music, like mostly back in the 19s when I. In the high school, I was listening to all music from Seattle, grunge music, alternative rock in that era, which is actually booming everywhere in the world, including Indonesia. And I've been dreaming to play in a band, in like an alternative rock band. So that's why me and my friends starting Navikula back in the 1996. And and then on the 1998, when we started to make our first album, then we see there's not so much band in Indonesia, especially in Bali, like a caring issue, social and environmental issue in their music, especially rock music. And which is at the time, me personally, outside of music, I also work as a volunteer in some social NGO and social movement in Bali, in grassroots movement. And I believe, and everybody in that grassroots movement believe, actually, youth are the agent of change. So I think it's like why we don't carry this issue that actually at the time is most like a more exclusive into only in the government or the NGO topic or their conversation every day. How to carry this one, extract them into rock music, and then deliver it into the youth, which is actually in Bali or Indonesia, rock music has, the music industry in Indonesia is really, really big. I think it's like one of the biggest in Asia. So that's why maybe that's the reason why Rolling Stone magazine only make in Asia, in Indonesia and in Japan. So I think this is two largest music industry in Asia. So that start on the 1998. We combine social ecology into a rock music, and maybe it's in the beginnings, like the 10 years in the beginning is not so much get attention, but slowly it's built, especially when we work with major label and getting the national attention, and then slowly this become issue that become popular right now in Indonesia, and that's the beginning of Navikula.
And I think music has so much power to move people, and this was something that was really exciting for Copernic, is how do we get young people, a whole new crowd of people beyond the kind of usual suspects to care about the issues that we're working on. So that was like a big motivation for us to collaborate.
Yes.
Well, we had hoped, working with both of you, to have Navikula at the Asia Society and here in the U.S., but alas, we have a slight pandemic to deal with, so that'll have to be delayed. But
Indeed.
But Ewa, could you talk about Kopernik? What is that, and how did you come to co-found that?
So Kopernik is an Indonesia-based social enterprise. I started it together with Toshi, my co-founder, who also happens to be my husband, after we'd been working with the UN for about 10 years. And during that time, we saw a real gap in finding innovative and tangible solutions to addressing social and environmental issues. And we really wanted to get more people, different players involved in solving these, some of the biggest challenges that we're faced with in the world today. And so Kopernik was born, and I guess your next question is probably going to be why Indonesia and why Bali. So we had both been working for the UN in Indonesia and spent a lot of time in Bali. So it had a very special place in our hearts, but also it made sense strategically to be a hub in Bali for Indonesia, where there were so many development challenges, but also more broadly in the region.
So thinking about that, and thinking about sort of the way I found out about your work was really through the project called Pulau Plastik. Now, what was that? What led you to start that project? And it's so powerful. Actually, Oscar, if we could see that image in front of the temple gates, when you think about plastic, and you see here at a temple how much plastic is used in, whether it's with holy water or just drinking water, or plastic comes in everywhere. So thinking about how to tackle this problem, I'm really curious how this became such a focus for both of you.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Okay. So we had already been working on different projects in the past, but this issue of plastic just kept coming up time and time again. And Rachel, you've been to Bali a lot of time. You've spent a lot of time here. It's really in your face wherever you go. There's nowhere for it to go. We were talking about, what are different ways to address this issue, and Pulau Plastik was born from this this desire to really change people's opinions, to get them to really understand the challenges around single-use plastics, but also to, again, get everyone around the table and figure out how to solve this problem. So it was going to be no more kind of blaming and shaming. It was really going to be, getting the government, getting corporations, getting the civil society who has been working on this issue for so long, getting everyone around the table to really figure out how to solve it. But I guess we wanted to do it through an entertaining and engaging way, using music and so we created influencers and created this series, which, and now we're in the final stages of making a film with Robbie as a host to really kind of bring the subject to light, and how Balinese culture and the kind of spiritual aspect, what that relationship is with plastic. So, Ravi.
In the beginning, we start in Bali, it's very start small, which is in our area, Bali, because it's Bali, so many local wisdom that we can use to raise the awareness using because in Bali it's very unique. It's like the 50-50, the formal regulation and then adat, traditional regulation. So we start with that kind of local potential. And then when we starting to make, in the beginning we just start for the TV series, very light, everything, and then we've been screening in the more than
100.
Hundreds, yeah. And then
should we take a moment and look at the trailer?
Sure.
Okay, and then we'll come back to this because this is so important. I think it's one of those local solutions to a truly global problem.
Saya Gede Robi. Sudah 20 tahun saya bersama band saya Navikula, berawal dari Pulau Bali, musik telah membawa kami berkeliling Indonesia, bahkan keliling dunia untuk mengkampanyekan isu-isu global seperti korupsi, penebangan hutan, perubahan iklim, dan sampah plastik. Untuk yang non-organik, saya taruh di sini semua.
Nah, ini yang mungkin masyarakat belum tahu betul mengenai dampak dari pemakaian plastik ke lingkungan, bahkan nanti mungkin balik juga ke meja makan mereka.
Dan ini mungkin datang dari rumah Anda. Siapa yang tadi buang ini di jalan ini pasti.
Sampai berapa tahun ini hancur di alam? Ratusan tahun ya. Kita pikir kita buang, hanyut ke laut, hilang. Ternyata enggak. Dimakan, masuk ke tubuhnya ikan, balik lagi ke kita ya. Itu namanya karma pala di Bali. Isu sampah dan plastik sebenarnya bukan hal yang baru. Tapi karena masih sedikit orang yang peduli, maka hal ini menjadi darurat. Dan waktunya untuk beraksi adalah sekarang, atau Bali akan menjadi pulau plastik.
These images and this story is so powerful and heartbreaking. And I know you've got, I think you have a three-part series on TV, or that's available, is that right?
4.
So there are 4 episodes, 4 20-minute episodes, and there is a film coming out soon. It was supposed to come out on
29th of July.
And then COVID happened. Yeah, there's been a bit of a delay, but yeah.
And is this available for other people to show? Can they see it online? What is the situation?
Yeah, so for now we haven't made it publicly available online yet because we're still figuring out the distribution strategy. But if you go to pulauplastic.org, then you can request a screening and we'll send you a file. And we've done screenings, we've done 100 screenings with BANYAK, local communities in Bali, many more all over Indonesia, in Australia, in the US, in the Philippines, many other countries. So definitely possible, and yeah, please get in touch.
Well, I hope that we can do that as well. I know that you were able to help get a regulation in Bali against single-use plastic bags. Could you say something about that?
So I think that win goes to all of the civil society organizations and the government that have been working on this issue for a really long time, and there are so many of them. And there is indeed a a Denpasar city regulation as well as a Bali-wide regulation that prohibits the use of plastic bags, styrofoam, and straws in Bali. And recently, also Jakarta has implemented a ban on plastic bags. Obviously, having a law and implementing it are two different things. So there's still a bit of a gap that that definitely needs to be addressed.
I'm really happy to hear you talk about the kind of working together or kerjasama with other organizations there, because I think it's so important that we see the kind of collective work. So in a way, the ethos that is so Bali is replicated in both the formal and informal sectors, as well as the government. So in order to really kind of make the kinds of changes you're talking about, it really takes that effort.
Definitely, and actually, just recently, so July is the month of plastic-free July, and there was the second Pawai Bebas Plastic, the plastic-free parade that took place in Indonesia. Unfortunately, again, this time it had to be online. But last year we had 49 organizations from Jakarta and around Indonesia joining the thousands of people in the center of Jakarta, asking for the various regional governments and to implement similar regulations as Bali has. So it was really celebrating the win of Bali. You know how progressive Bali was, and encouraging others to do the same. Sorry,
that's great. I just want to mention. Oh, go ahead.
No, sorry. I just said I was talking to you.
Oh, I was going to mention that for those of you who are watching, we're delighted that you can be with us, and we want to welcome you to send in your questions either on Facebook or YouTube. And towards the end, we will have a chance to talk with both Ewa and Robbie about your questions, which I will share with them. But now I have to go to the really pressing question that's immediate that we're all thinking about, the situation of COVID. You know, it's the first time in my lifetime that we've had something like a pandemic that is, you know, we're both really isolated and far away from each other and so close and sharing something that is being experienced across the globe. And I just wondered if you could give us an update on COVID-19 in Bali and maybe set the scene for us in terms of what your work has been.
Okay, so I might start with some research that my organization Copernic conducted in May. So it's already a few months ago. So the situation is changing so rapidly. But we were looking at the impact of COVID on people's livelihoods in Bali. I mean, as we know, Bali relies heavily on the tourism sector. So our research found that 81% of people had their incomes impacted by the pandemic through income reductions and job losses, and 44% of people had lost their jobs. Talking to people, looking around the streets, I can only at this point guess that the situation has gotten much, much worse, and we do plan to do follow-up research. What we're also seeing is that a lot of people are shifting to new ways of earning income, producing food and selling food, and moving back to agriculture. Robbie, I think you can probably talk a lot more about that shift.
Yeah, it's like it's like I mean, we know the pandemic is really impacting badly to everybody, but the different perspectives, like shifting the priority into the economy development in Indonesia also, not also people, but also in the government. So the food sovereignty has become the main concern right now. And then in Bali is shifting from the tourism into the agriculture is like a back to our Balinese root, which is actually the Balinese root, Balinese traditional way of life. Everything is agriculture. So that's the different perspective that we can see how the impact of the pandemic is caused in the social level.
And there are opportunities as well to I guess capture this moment and become less reliant on the whims of the tourism sector, and for people to become I guess more self-reliant.
Yeah, and also it's like there is a movement to digging the forgotten potential, and then people everything is start. So yeah, it's like a global issue, but the solution is very local. And then for examples like the collaboration that we do is like a week after the lockdown in Bali, it's so many, for example, this is just one example, it's like it's so many not so enough stock in the store and in the medical facility about the hand sanitizer. And then the forgotten potency in Bali that we found actually is like a Bali is surplus with arak, which is actually the local alcohol that made by local farmer here.
So arak is something that people usually drink.
Yes,
correct.
Correct.
In this case, okay.
It's like a Bali vodka, Bali vodka, but very traditional and very cheap. And then only in the one regency in Bali, like a Karangasem, Bali has 8 regency, and one regency Karangasem is like the source of the arak. This regency has more than 1,000 arak producer, like a farmer. So seeing this kind of perspective, like using the local potency, Copernic, and then Apa Kabar Bali teams is like doing the collaboration also with a local farmer to make the hand sanitizer based on the arak.
Yeah, because so part of Copernic's emergency response was to provide supplies to health facilities and hospitals who were really at that time running very short of basic safety equipment and sanitizing supplies, and we couldn't buy hand sanitizer anywhere. So we started thinking, okay, we know that the hand sanitizer has to have a minimum of 70% alcohol. So like, where can we get alcohol? We can get the other ingredients. So started to reach out to the different alcohol companies, and then we're out of alcohol. So it's like, okay, but we have arak. Surely we can make alcohol. So through all this network and connections, we reached out to our friends who were arak producers in Karangasem, and employed 150 arak producers to make and then to body care companies, also local companies that are based in Ubud, to produce this hand sanitizer, and we've been distributing this to hospitals and medical facilities, not only in Bali but NTT, Jakarta, Bandung, Bogor,
Papua.
All over the place. Yeah,
Even Papua.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That is an amazing story. But you've also started a series called Apa Kabar Bali, which I think has become an important way of sharing information, accurate information. Maybe talk a little bit about that.
So the reason for Apa Kabar Bali and was really there was so much. At the same time, there was a lack of information and so much misinformation. So this was a way to provide really kind of fact-checked, real, timely information to the Balinese population. It was really Bali focused, but actually ended up being watched all over Indonesia, about the current statistics, what you can do to keep yourself safe from COVID, and also highlight some really amazing community initiatives that are taking place by so many different groups and local adat, customary villages to really promote this positive way of people helping each other and supporting themselves in these really difficult times. So we've been producing the series, I think since April, around
38,
about 38, 40
series.
Episodes. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. It's really amazing. I know that you have to raise funds to be able to do this. How are you doing that?
So we got funding from, so whenever there's an emergency or a disaster response component, crowd funds. So we raised funds from many individuals all over the world. We also got funding from the Australian government, the Polish government, some foundations, other alcohol producers.
Was there a band, some kind of a concert, a fundraiser?
Of course, yes, there was a band. There was a band called Navikula, and we did an online concert this was specifically for the production of face shields for medical personnel. I'm going to stop talking.
Okay.
Well, we're going to show a little bit of the Bali Berani Berhenti, but maybe you could set it up for us and then we'll show the clip.
So the concert.
This is one of the concert. We already did 3 concert. So start on April, the first concert, and then January, February, March, the first one, and then the April for doing the fundraising for this facial. And then the last we did on July also for the hand sanitizers is related to the hand sanitizer, and then collaboration with the local farmer. Yeah, and we have one of the shot for the online concert that we made.
Let's take a look at that, and then we'll come back and talk about the meaning of the song and some of the local history and lontar and interesting background. So Oscar, if you could show us Navikula. So first, thank you so much for sharing that with us. And is this available to people who want to see the whole song or the whole concert?
Yes, it's available on YouTube. Just search Navikula Corona Concert 2, Navikula X Copernic. It's like a Navikula X Copernic collaboration. Corona Concert 2. Yeah.
Great. So that must have been a challenge to put that together because you couldn't be together as a band.
Yeah, it's like luckily we have technology to do that.
Yeah, well, it looks great and it sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the meaning of that song.
Yeah, it's saat semua semakin cepat, Bali berani berhenti. In English means like when everyone's become faster and faster, Bali dare to stop. So it's long title. But actually that song is inspired by Nyepi. You know Nyepi, Rachel, right? It's like in
But
Bali.
the audience may not. Yeah.
Yeah. So once a year, so one day every year, Bali has like actually it's like a lockdown. It's every year. So close everything. Everybody stay at home. No working. No carbon print. Even the international airport is closed. So I think it's we are as Balinese very proud of it because we searching is like only in Bali can happen like a 24 hours. Everything just shut down. This actually our appreciation for Mother Earth to restart everything's to back from start by saving by stop the carbon. And during the pandemic, actually, whole the world is locked down, forced to be locked down. So that's why that song is relevant for that one. It's like maybe to see the different perspective as the environmentalist, as the economist, maybe it's bombers, but as the environmentalist, maybe it's like have the different perspective. And this maybe it's like a time to evaluations for everybody. What the potential that we have, start everything from our house, so many time in the house, maybe like a more quality time with the family, start to doing the home gardening, start to shifting the priority, what is our priority, maybe when everything is become faster, the e-commerce, everything is become faster, the development may be faster, but some is going to wrong direction. But the time for evaluation for everybody to make it more prime, like back to the priority for the, what is it called?
I mean, it's amazing to think of Nyepi or Sepi or this time of what people have been saying is pause. But in fact, Bali's had it for centuries, this idea of pause.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the social resilience, one of that kind of habit is making, that's one of the resilience.
Yeah. One of the things that was so interesting in your Apakabara section on Lontar and on the fact that there's actually historical references to past plagues or pandemics and advice that seems to coincide with the scientific advice. Could you say something about that?
Yeah. In one of the Apa Kabar Bali series, so we open a discussion with some cultural observation, some spiritual leader, and then also many literature, like ancient literature. And then we found out, but actually, maybe in the world, actually this plague, like a pandemic, is repeating the history, right? It happened like a Spanish flu, blah blah, and like actually this is just the pandemic right now is kind of like repeating the history, and also what happened in Bali. In Bali, actually there was many years, like 100 years ago, we have history of the pandemic, which is actually written in our Lontar, and then there is some protocol also written like. In this kind of situation, people not allowed to gathering, doing the praying in the large amount of people, and there is some interesting that we found out. So this pandemic, that kind of local wisdom is reintroduced to the community.
Yeah, I mean that's so interesting because this idea that you don't have to pray in huge groups, but that prayer is effective. As long as you're sincere, as long as you do it with intention, and that has been really thought through much earlier. Maybe this is a moment to look at just a short section from Apa Kabar Bali. We're doing an interview on this.
Ini mengandung arak.
Ini mengandung arak.
Bisa dicampur dong.
mengenai soal pandemi sebenarnya di Bali itu ada lontar. Itu di apa kabar?
Apa bahasa Balinya apa?
Gerubuk agung.
Gerubuk, oke.
Agung. Itu
dijawab geblok.
Agung, ya itu. Pokoknya sakit besar gitu.
Oke.
Itu ada lontar di lontar Jayaprana dan protokolnya sebenarnya udah dicatat.
Wow.
Protokol-protokolnya udah dicatat, tidak boleh mengadakan puja wali. Puja wali itu artinya tidak boleh mengumpulkan massa di tempat peribadatan.
Diajarkan ketika sekolah dulu?
Tidak, itu. Tidak boleh mengadakan ngaben karena ngaben melibatkan banyak orang.
Desain kita tentang respon terhadap bencana mestinya didesain atau modelnya adalah model-model respon lokal. Ya, jadi dalam kondisi perang, bencana alam skala besar, pandemi, epidemi bahkan, itu responnya harus respon yang bisa lokal, resource lokal. Jadi mulai dari tanggap daruratnya, pangannya, itu mestinya dalam jangkauan tangan. Kira-kira gitu.
These sessions from Apa Kabar Bali they're so informative and they're so interesting. I'm wondering if you're getting any response from Balinese people learning about how this has a historical base, or a local knowledge.
Sorry again.
Robbie, I'm just thinking about how you're thinking about traditional Bali, or I don't even know traditional, but the culture of Bali, which includes both ancient lontar information, knowledge, as well as really current. And maybe you can tie in that idea of what's local with both the cultural and religious, but also with the economic in terms of farming, return to agriculture.
Yes. For example, it's like the systems, like as we know in Bali, actually, for example, there is a system that built since generation to generation to build. Every house has their own temple at home. So that's why in every compound house has a temple. Actually, this is the kind of system that's during the pandemic, you can still doing your spiritual activity from home. So it's like the temple in the house actually is like a device. It's like a Zoom meeting, like this one, which is connected to the main temple. So this is just one system that actually built it. So this kind of information is reintroduced by Apa Kabar Bali, and also in Apa Kabar Bali there is so many report or review or interview with the inspiring initiative, like a local initiative, for example, like the urban farming movement, which is actually the ideal for the food sovereignty, is to make the source of the food is as close as possible to our dining table. So it's so many happening right now in Bali. And then before the pandemic, we got the statistics, like because I also working in some journalists, like with some media, and we found like the average of the farmer in Bali and also Indonesia is 55 years old, the average before the pandemic. And then the children, the kids of the farmer, or their son or their daughter, who continue to be a farmer is only 3%.
Wow.
So it will be predictable disaster in the agricultural sectors, like lack of the labor in the agricultural sector in the next 5 or the 10 years after our farmer cannot working anymore, because in the next 5 or 10 years they will be retired as a farmer. But after the pandemic, based, for example, like research from the Copernic, 44% of Bali losing their job. And mostly the people that losing their job is on the tourism industry. They work in the city, in the hotel, in the restaurant, in the transportation industry. And most of them, let's say the 44% of them, just back to the village and then start to doing their land again. So actually this kind of shifting before only 3% is now increasing. You can see like how the direction of the economic now in Bali in the short term after the pandemic, the agriculture will be back. And then when the agriculture backs, it's like the government also see this is as their direction of the development. So, and then, yeah, we even like we got from our President Jokowi, they're going to open some productive land again to support the food logistic in Indonesia. Because everybody is like mostly of the Indonesian is imported, lots of imported now. And because of the pandemic, we see like so many countries that exporting their food is stopping now because they have to supply the food for their own people. So yeah, so the
things are changing.
Yeah, pandemic forced us to do something, food resilience and food sovereignty.
Yeah, what is so impressive to me is the work that you're doing based in research, where you're actually getting information from people and being able to incorporate that into the larger information stream, as it were.
Yeah, and also it's like integrated with the local knowledge. When we're talking about preserve Bali culture, the Bali culture all is about farming, irrigation, suba, like all the water temple, protecting the forest for the water spring, and then all the good day in Bali, like the calendar, is all about the agriculture. So it's actually it's preserved the culture, and then this culture also giving back as the resilience for the community.
Yeah, it's really, kudos to the two of you. Well, really to all the people who are working in your organizations. And I know there are other organizations, and that network of work is so impressive. I have one question that has just come in from YouTube, which is, now that Bali is trying to create a new era, do you think it's time that the foreign media stop calling it a resort island?
That wouldn't be a bad idea. There's so much more to Bali than being a resort island. At the same time, I don't want to diminish, the livelihoods of so many people who have depended on tourism for so long. But as everyone is saying, perhaps time to take pause and really rethink and rebalance the focus, and perhaps it's time for a new era of tourism, which is much more sustainable, where and where people also have are not so dependent on, as I said before, on the whims of the tourism industry, but can also provide for themselves. There's so much. You look around and things can seem pretty grim at the same time, and I think it's because we've really been looking for these innovations and these stories through our research and through Apa Kabar Bali. There are so many incredible initiatives that are taking place in Bali right now. Just two that popped into my head. One is Pasar Rakyat, our friend Nyoman, who is working with a network of farmers all over Bali and redistributing this food that would typically go to the tourism sector that doesn't need it right now, but redistributing it to those that need it, so that food doesn't go to waste and the farmers are still able to work. And the other great initiative, which kind of links back to Pulau Plastik, is the Banjar in Sayan, who have a bank sampah, a waste bank, where people bring in plastic waste and exchange it for rice or food. So it's
what is a Banjar, for those who don't know?
What is a Banjar?
Banjar penestanan kaju, penestanan kelot.
But it's like a sub village hamlet. Is it a hamlet?
Yeah.
People always say hamlet, but it's a very close-knit community that works together and is responsible for each other. And I'm always so impressed with that concept of Banjar. Even my Balinese group in California, we call it Banjar Gamelan Sekali.
Nice.
I mean,
Yeah.
we try. I can't say we're really a Banjar, but anyway, go on with Penasai.
Yeah, and also it's like related to tourism, so like the concept of tourism business in Bali is based on the two pillars, nature and cultural, right? So the industry business, tourism business in Bali based on this one. And by this pandemic, actually nature and cultural is gain their strength. So hopefully when the industry start to open again, Bali will be more sustainable in this business.
That's
because
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because during the pandemic, actually the resilience of people is like a back to preserve their nature and then strengthen their future, their culture. Sorry.
That's a great definition of what resilience really means: culture, nature, and the coming together. So I have one more question, which is because both of you have been part of Asia 21, which is a network of leaders throughout Asia. I wonder if you have a chance to share some of this with your network, or if that network, what is the potential of a network like that?
I love the Asia 21 network, and I love the annual summits that take place every year. Again, this year I think it's going to have to be online. Everyone was super excited because it was going to be in Japan, but it's just a really inspiring group of people that comes from all sectors. So it's not only civil society. It's you get people from government, from the private sector, and from all around Asia, Australia, and the United States. And it's really through these personal connections that you establish during these events and these opportunities that we have to come together. And just personally, with the Asia 21 leaders here in Indonesia, we've already had some really concrete collaborations, with Ratna from Potato Head, who launched who held the Pulau Plastik launch event there. We have Gita from LTKL, where we're doing a lot of work on sustainability and building a business case for conservation with farmers. So it's just such a rich and valuable network of amazing people that I feel super proud to be part of.
Yeah.
Well, great. Just as a closing, I'd really like to know from each of you, where do you go from here? What's coming up next? And Ewa, if we could start with you, and then Robbie. It's
a tough question, because the whole world is changing, right? So I'm not going to pretend that everything, is easy and smooth. I mein, for an organization like Copernic, we have to, we have some, we have challenges ahead of us, in terms of funding, in terms of, how we're able to operate with these restrictions in place. We're normally very kind of hands-on and do so much travel and work with communities. So that's a big challenge that we're facing. At the same time, I do think that there are incredible opportunities for work. I think there's a lot more appetite and a lot more openness for working on issues related to climate change and sustainability and agriculture and food sovereignty. So yeah, I have to be optimistic, and I am. So I wasn't sure where we'd be we're almost in September, but yeah, there's a lot ahead, and most of it is focused on supporting people's livelihoods, development, agriculture, and plastic, which has just become an even bigger issue than it was before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, seems like a challenging also in the music. In Bali, it's like the tourism, and then the even like a concert, like the entertainment industry is like the most collapsing industry in Bali. But because luckily I have lots of hobbies. It's like one of my hobbies, farming, is become the
new trend.
Become a new trend right now. And we also doing the collaboration after doing the Pulau Plastik. In the process now will be in the cinema or the hopefully Netflix soon, cross finger. And then Apa Kabar Bali will be finished this season soon, but we still have the project in agriculture back in my farm up in the mountain, also to help open the opportunity for the people, for the who like we doing a research about the solar dryer for food right now. start like 2 weeks ago.
So we're looking at coffee and cacao. So drying is a really important part of the post-harvest process, and with climate change, the weather has become so unpredictable that farmers are not able to dry their coffee or their cacao in the same way that they were able to previously. So one of the initiatives to work with farmers and improve their incomes and improve the value of their produce is solar drying and connecting to markets.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to thank you both for your generosity of spirit and for the amazing work that you're doing there in Bali. But I think it is really true that it is both local with global implications. I hope that model can be shared and people can find local solutions around the world, because in many ways we're all local at the same time that we're global, and we really are one shared world. So I am really appreciative, and thank you both for being with us today. And I hope that viewers will check out Copernic and Navakula and some of the other good work that you have talked about, which I think you can find through Apa Kabar Bali. So thank you both. I just close now. Yes. Makasih. Sampai ketemu. Saya harap kapan-kapan saya bisa ke Bali.
You're welcome.
Back to Bali. I think actually Bali is probably closed to tourists at least until 2021. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll have to do it by Zoom. Maybe we'll share our different kinds of heavy metal. As you've noticed, to the viewers, we're offering some extraordinary programming, and we're offering it for free around the world. For those of you who are able, we ask that you consider giving a gift of any size to support our work. If you're watching on YouTube, you can donate by checking out the link in the video description, or you can donate at asiasociety.org. And I just want to mention that the Asia Society's Triennial of Asian Arts will be starting formally in October. They are already doing programs, but I think it's particularly inspiring that the theme is "We Don't Dream Alone." And indeed, today's program really is about the fact that we share our dreams, our aspirations, our hopes, and our experience and the challenges as well. So I close the program. Thank you all, and look forward to seeing you whether it's on the stage or on a Zoom or in Bali or in New York, I hope. Anyway.
Yeah.